getting extra feed or any of that stuff?
7:52, it's time for News Extra, brought to you by Intralinks. Here's Kevin Mooney.
Thank you, Dennis. Good morning, everyone. John Berge is here from the North Platte NRD. We're always very happy to have him on the show. And Dave Wolf is in the background in case he says something he's not supposed to.
That's right. Thanks for having us, Kevin.
Oh, you bet. You bet. So you got about 4 topics here you want to talk about, and one of them is the budget for fiscal year 2016, and this kind of lends itself with maybe having people discover exactly what all you guys do, right?
Yeah, we do a lot. We've talked about this before in this show. We're obviously heavily involved in water quantity management, but we're also involved in water quality management. We do a lot of work with municipalities. We do a lot of work with individual landowners, domestic wells. We do a lot of work with resources like trees and grasses. We do a tremendous amount. We cover 2.5 million acres here in the Nebraska Panhandle, 4.5 counties. And we need input. This is a political subdivision. We are 60% funded by property tax. We are one of the line items on that tax bill that you get. And we don't have a lot of input from taxpayers. And we're here seeking it. We've been working on our budget for about the past 3 months with the Budget and Personnel Subcommittee. We've been talking with a lot of people that come to our meetings or that request input with the budget, but we'd like to have more of that. We're going to have our budget hearing and our final passage over the course of the next couple of months, and I just wanted to raise that as an issue. You know, we have an integrated management plan that has some obligations under the law that we've got to meet in a series of steps, series of mileposts. And much of our budget is going to be spent on that. It has to be. But there's a lot of other priorities that we need to focus on, and we'd like input to get it done.
All right, so make sure you get that done. You can call the North Platte NRD if you got any questions about what they do. 632-2749 is John's office number. You can give him a call even on his cell phone, 672-9290. Just give a call up there to the staff. I'm sure they'll clue you in on what's going on. All right, partnerships. And is one of the things you also wanted to talk about, and the Browns Canyon drain situation was a prime example of how you guys work in partnerships to get things done, right?
Yeah, you know, the Browns Canyon situation is something we're going to be talking about at our board meeting tomorrow, because I think it's a good example of a way that a lot of interested parties can get around a table and figure out a solution to a problem. We should give a very high amount of credit to Rick Preston, who's the manager over at Gearing-Fort Laramie Irrigation Districts, who sort of spearheaded this effort. We were sort of an ancillary partner in all of this, but it did spur another conversation. And the other conversation was that I thought it was important for us to maybe pull in all of the surface water districts in our NRD and start talking to them about ways that we might be able to work together beyond the ways that we already work together with them now. One of those areas is something like the Browns Canyon situation. We have around 50 drains across our NRD, and to my knowledge only about a dozen of them are covered by some sort of maintenance committee, which means that there are a lot of infrastructure improvements that need to be made that are not going to be made because there's no jurisdictional authority over that infrastructure. So for example, when Browns Canyon broke, there was some conversation about, well, should we apply for a loan? And my question was, well, who signs the note? Should we apply for a grant? Who writes the grant? There's no authority over that. So one of the issues that we talked about when we brought all of these folks in 2 or 3 weeks ago was perhaps we ought to look at starting to establish more drain committees so that we have some funding mechanisms when there are issues like this that arise, or to prevent issues like this from arising by having maintenance. The Gearing Valley Flood Control Permanent Maintenance Committee is something that's been long established in Gearing Valley, and it works very, very well. I know, for instance, that I'm on the hook, the NRD is on the hook for 26% of any of the maintenance costs on that drain each year, and I can budget for that. Browns Canyon was not a budgetable thing. We committed dollars to that repair, we were happy to do it, but those were monies that were coming from general funds that were set aside for something else. And so I think that that's something that we need to really look at. The second area where I think we can be better partners in terms of working with surface water is to have a more permanent capacity to deal with high stream flows when they exist. You know, these high flows happened this year, and all of us were sort of taken aback. We weren't anticipating them when they happened, and when that occurred, we weren't nimble enough to be able to take advantage of those high flows, get them out of the river for flood control, but also reap the benefits of intentional recharge. We've embarked on, and in fact I just sent a letter to all these surface water districts with proposed language for a permanent agreement so that when these happen we can essentially pick up the phone and say, do you want to use your canal for this purpose? If we had that in place this year, I think we would have been able to take advantage of that on a much grander scale than we did this year.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Be back right after this. All right, we're gonna have about a minute and 20 seconds left. So we'll do quickly. You want to go to the
If we can.
skip the trees and go to the telemetry. Okay. Right at 8 o'clock, we gotta be gone. Gotta be out of here. Just so you know.
I'll be very quick.
Okay.
Secure your wireless network. For weekly tips and information, friend Intralinks.
I'm glad
on
you're recording
Facebook
this.
At intralinks.net.
John's speaking very
Facebook.
quick.
We're back on News Extra. We have John Berge here with the North Platte NRD. We got one more subject to talk about, and we're going to discuss telemetry here real quick in a little over a minute.
Telemetry, for those of you that don't know, your listeners that don't know, is a way for us to broadcast data from a point in the field to our office. We have 23 flow meters across the district, 2,300 flow meters across the district that are used both for regulatory purpose and by landowners to help manage their operations. They're very difficult to get to, very expensive to get to from our standpoint, and a little bit cumbersome if you have to go out and read them in person. We've been working with 2 private companies to pilot 2 projects. We now have 12 telemetry units in the district where we're able to get that information real time. It improves our scientific model. It improves the landowner's ability to manage real time, and it improves our ability to regulate. All of those things are good things in terms of meeting our obligations under the IMP. We're currently working with 2 funding operations to expand this to about 200 meters across the district. We wanted everybody to know about that.
All right, John Berge with the North Platte NRD, our guest today on News Extra.
Thanks, Kevin.
You bet.
Just